What's going on, guys? Skyhound here, also known as Geek Detective Pierce. As you can see, that little clip, I decided to do it, and well, it's been a while since I've watched Turbo Power Rangers movie. I did mention on my little quick behind the scenes little tidbit here. If you guys haven't seen that, I will um, do let me know. I will put the link in the description. But that being said, this review is going to be a little different. Like, I'm not going to go over it scene by scene to a degree. I'm just going to kind of go over just like the bare bones, if you will. But with that being said, there's a little something I wanted to show you guys real quick here. Hang on. So, the movie is an hour and 40 minutes long. The premise of the film is pretty simple. You come across a wizard by the name of Largo who is being chased by Divatox. And frankly, I'll just point out right here Hilary Shepard, the one who voiced Divatox. We also have Amy Jo, who reprises her role as Kimberly. Austin St. John plays Jason Lee Scott, of course, the original Red Ranger. For those of you guys who have watched the a few fanword videos, if you check it out on YouTube, there are some that are free. It does sort of explain a little bit in terms of what went on the show. Again, pay issues. Sorry, I don't know why I said distributes. Pay issues between Walter, Twee, and Austin was the main reason why they left the show, among a few other things. Now, I do want to point out something really interesting here. If you notice, right next to Hillary Shepard's, after Hillary Shepard, you see someone named John Simerton. Well, I'm about to break something here. Literally. What if I told you that the name John Simerton is an alias? Yes, you heard correctly. I said alias. Now, are there any people here who want to take a wild guess? Well, what if I listed a few character names? Let's see if you can figure it out. Sanosuke. Who else could I bring up? Ecliptor. War Greymon. The main villain from Crash Bandicoot. Did you figure it out? Good. Now you see who that person actually really is. He actually also played Largo. But not only that, I'll go again. He even played Zanaku as well. So again, I'm just gonna be going over the bare bones here. Largo is being chased by Divatox. He escapes to Earth. Zordon and Alpha learn about him coming in, and then we do get a bit of a quick cutout to Rocky, Tommy, and Adam are preparing for a martial arts tournament. During their practice session, Rocky kind of gets a little bit I don't know if I would say over enthusiastic, but he gets injured and then he gets brought over to the hospital. The other Rangers learn about Largo, and that's after they visit Rocky in the hospital. What they don't know, excuse me, is that Justin overhears the whole thing and he's under the bed. So when the Rangers get the call, Justin hears everything. And he's like, "You guys are the Power Rangers?" Now, before I go any further into this quick analysis here, I do want to mention that 2009 was actually where I had my very first mini Power Morphicon experience before I knew about Power Morphicon. Blake Foster, the guy who played Justin in the original film, I got to meet him as well as Steve Cardenas, um, Catherine Sutherland, who played the second Mighty Morphin Pink Ranger, Zeo Pink, and Turbo Pink. I got to meet her as well as Barbara Goodson, uh, Robert Axelrod, rest his soul, as well as Patricia Jali, who was Kat's replacement in Turbo. With that being said, if you guys want to, I did place a link to the video on Power Rangers Playback with regards as to why Kat and Nakia left the show in the description if you want to check it out whenever you have time. But going back to the film here, um, we also see a few of Divatox's minions. Rygog is one, and then we also get bollocks. It has been a long time since I've watched it. That other guy. Oh, Elgar. Sorry, brain farter here. Elgar is the other one. I also want to point out one other thing though. That character I mentioned, Rygog, the one that has that blue armor on his head and he has like a small skull head, played by the same voice actor who did Largo. Quick little tidbit there. So basically, Tommy and Kat set out to go find Largo in Africa. However, I did find out online before I go any further, I'm bouncing around here like a mad rabbit. There's a part in the film where they actually filmed in the States. I think it was California, somewhere north, I think, that had to do with being in a river. So when you see the transition between the attack on the boa snake, FYI, guys, that was a real snake. I did inquire about it with Catherine Sutherland herself. That is a real snake. So when Tommy's wrestling with that snake, Cat obviously, manages to get away, but falls into the river. That was actually in a different state. Just FYI, guys. So her leg gets injured as a result of the fall. She barely manages to morph into Zero Ranger 1 before it gets disconnected when she hits the water. But anyway, after some time passes by, they do manage to find Largo, bring him back over to where Zordon and Alpha is. But lo and behold, as that's happening, Divatox and her minions do manage to make their way to Earth. They do come across a few humans, but not the ones that she's looking for. Turns out that was actually Bulk and Skull as they were patrolling over at night. Divatox manages to get those guys in, and she's a really annoyed person at that point at Elgar and his incompetence. So, second attempt. They come across two humans that are actually scuba diving. Turns out it's actually Jason and Kim. They get caught this time by Divatox. And when Largo is brought back, he gets a telepathic transmission. Then Zordon puts it on the screen and they find out Divatox has captured Largo's family. And she gives an ultimatum. Either they surrender Largo or, Jason and Kim are out of the picture permanently. So they do head over to the location where they're supposed to be, but Largo voluntarily gives himself up despite the Rangers' pleas. And then when they find out that the ones that were released are actually decoys, they then learn that they're going to have to go from Zeo to Turbo. So Zordon reveals the new Turbo Zords to the four Rangers. Tommy gets Red Lightning, Adam gets Desert Thunder, Catherine gets Wind Chaser, and Tanya gets Doonestar. As for Mountain Blaster, well, they assume Rocky's going to be getting it, but that isn't the case. So, as they go across the desert, they then learn that there's a ship that is going to take them safely over to the island of Maranthius. They also learn that Divatox plans to marry the fire demon known as Malagor. That's from the island of Maranthius. So, by the time they do get to the ship, they find out that someone else has already taken Mountain Blaster, and they thought it's Rocky, but no, it's Justin. Now, I know what some people are thinking. They're kind of going, how is a kid being a Power Ranger at this point? Well, before I go any further into the plot of this film, Japan started doing this long before the Americans did. And the only reason why they came across it is because of Super Sentai, which happens to be what Power Rangers became before that. So, they were likely watching a certain episode of Super Sentai, and when they saw that, they're like, hey, they're actually using kid actors in this. Why not give this a try? The irony is, they actually did this with the Alien Rangers right before Zeo actually began. So they thought, hey, it worked before. Why not try it again? Well, the reaction for this was totally mixed. I was like, what are they doing? At first, it sounded cool, but then when I rewatched it on Laserdisc, this is before the internet existed. The Laserdisc was way before then. When I watched it again, I was going, what are they doing? It didn't add up. However, let's get back to the film real quick. So they bring the Zords in to the ship, carries them over. Their keys activate, the ship and all of that. Divatox finds out that they're being followed, sends a few pod monsters to distract them. By the time they get past the barrier, that's when, of course, Divatox knows that the Rangers are hot on her tail. On top of that, Kim, Bulk, and Skull managed to get out thanks to Jason's efforts, but Jason's the only one that's left there. Now, if you guys were paying attention, on the video, like I said, there's a little tidbit that I mentioned about the call between Divatox and Rita. Carla Perez is the suit actor for Rita. Barbara Goodson is the voice actor. So, don't think that's one and the same. It's not. Now, while they only listed some of the people here, including Jason Narvey and Paul Schreier, who plays, Bulk and Skull respectively, I know they left some people out. But then again, I'm not really that surprised. Anyway, there's a point in the film where there's a call going in between Divatox and Rita, and we see Zed asleep. If you guys watch my video with regards to that little tidbit, you'll know who it is. So I highly suggest, after looking at this, go and look back at that video. Then go to here. Anyway, with that being said, once Divatox catches wind of the Rangers, following her, she then fires a couple of torpedoes. That's right after Adam decides to scout ahead. The ship gets destroyed. Adam thinks they're gone, but they manage to get inside the Zords just in the nick of time. But on top of that, they find out that the guardians of the island who worship Malagor then are actually, targeting Kim and the others. But, Divatox manages to bring out Larigo. And of course, they get to the Serpent's Temple. At that point, that's when Tommy and the others decide to morph and then try to follow the tracks where, Divatox actually is. Not surprising, it is actually Justin who manages to find the entrance, if you will. And obviously, that's when the battle ensues. But, of course, Divatox manages to push, I wouldn't say push, but lower Kim and Jason into the fire pit. Of course, that whole thing is actually CGI, not surprising. But both of them do get to play a little bit of an evil self, if you will. And looking back at it now, I mean, I know there's some people that are into like, bad girls and the like or bad boys, but you get the idea. So after the fight breaks out, of course, Largo and his wife manage to get those two back to normal at some point. But there's some pretty decent lines in the film. I mean, I know I said back when I was doing Mighty Morphin that sometimes the lines Amy Jo is given, I think it's because of the writers, but I just love the way how she delivers the lines. Evil is as evil does, and Catherine's trying to talk her out of it. Jason tries to talk her out of it. I mean, not Jason. Tommy tries to talk her out of it, and basically, Jason is the one who grabs him and tries to choke the life out of him right before Kim, you know, turns to Kat and says, "Oh yeah, sweetie, pink is out," and then just knocks her to the ground. Honestly, like there's some parts in this film that's cheesy. It's a kids film, I get that, but frankly this film is a bit all over the place. But anyway, when Jason and Kim are back to normal, that's when Detox goes to plan B in terms of a sacrifice. Sacrifices Elgar, Malagor comes out, and of course, when the Rangers are trying to attack, their weapons are ineffective. So they have to take the battle outside. The Zords, while they are cars, if there's one thing that doesn't surprise me is the fact that most people realize that Turbo as a season was more of a cash grab. They really didn't know that Car Ranger, which is the Sentai counterpart, is a parody. Now, keep this in mind. Even though this was from Japan, Saban and the others didn't fully understand parody by definition. So, when they tried to adapt it, didn't go so well. And it almost killed the franchise. Almost. But anyway, back to the film real quick. They form the Turbo Megazord. Malagor gets a few hits in, and eventually the Rangers use the Sword and Shield and launch their final attack on Malagor, taking him out. Divatox is obviously frustrated and upset as the island is about to explode and sink. So, during the end of the film, which is basically the martial arts competition, Jason takes Rocky's place, and eventually, after 3 rounds, they eventually win the prize money for the shelter that Justin and the other foster kids are in. So yeah, like I said, I was kind of going over this really fast. I was just kind of giving, in a sense, like the bare bones. I have watched this like probably numerous times, and I kind of know most of it like the back of my hand. But anyway, again, yeah, this movie was okay for the most part. Not exactly the best. I know most people that were Ranger fans didn't like it as much. Yes, there's some that do like it, but again, hey, it is what it is. Right up until we get the 2017 attempt. Now, that one I'm likely not going to review. I know I did discuss it with Orange Hat a little bit, and I don't know if I did go over it with Will from Will at Will the Heroic Studios when I was doing my little birthday stream back in August a few years ago. But overall, objectively, story, this is definitely the weakest from what I've seen, especially in terms of writing. That one gets a 3 out of 10. Characters, at best, 5. Subjectively, I'm going to give this film, at best, 5 out of 10. Characters, I mean, a little bit nostalgic, maybe 6, 7-ish. They did good with what they got, but it's the writing that's also a bit of an issue. Overall, at this, I know it shows on there it says 40. Some people rate it down less. Myself, maybe at best, I'd give this maybe 6 or 7. I know it's low, it's not exactly that great, but arguably, if I'm being fair about it, I'm going to give this a 6. And honestly, this could have been better, but most people didn't like it, to each their own. But with that being said, this is just my general thoughts and quick overview on Turbo Power Rangers movie. So the next film I will be reviewing is actually a classic. For those of you who know The Incredible Journey, you know exactly what I'm going to be talking about. And I'm definitely looking forward to talking about this film. It's been a while since I've watched it, so yeah, look forward to that film. And eventually I will be doing some musicals, not just Disney, but I'll be doing ones like Rent. You also have the Greatest Showman, the one with Hugh Jackman about Ringling Brothers and Barnum Bailey. I'll be reviewing that one soon. But anyway, those are going to be some of the future projects I'll be working on, including a video diary vlog with regards to my convention adventures. With that being said, this has been Skyhound, also known as Geek Detective Pierce. Stay safe, stay sane, and as always, stay humble. Peace.